All right, everyone. Thank you for joining another episode of the 30-Day Redemption. This is day 6 of our Mind episode. And we wanted to thank you for coming on and taking part in this 30-day journey of mind, body, and spirit. And the purpose of the 30-Day Redemption is to create a platform where during quarantine and during all of the things that are going on in the world, that we have a place that we can come and get great content and content that can inspire you to keep on going despite what's going on around you. So today's presentation is Redemption through Entrepreneurship, and this is part 2 of a 3-part series giving you information on how you can find redemption and how you can find answers through entrepreneurship so that you don't have to wait for the new normal to define you. You can take part in defining your new normal. And so today's conversation within the entrepreneurial redemption is disaster resilience for small business. And we're going to have Alexandra Hughes of EcoEd Impact Corp, and she's going to take us through some of the information that she's gained from FEMA to help small businesses find their way during this troubled time. Our disclaimer is the opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenter. They do not purport to reflect the opinions or views of the 30-Day Redemption or its members, officers, staff, partners, or advertisers. So we're going to go ahead and get Alexandra on. Alexandra, if you can, let me go ahead and stop my screen. You could go ahead and start your screen up and take us on this journey and let us know what we need to know. And I will also be weighing in so that we can have some other business opinions on this topic. So Alexandra, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. Hello, everyone. Just to double check, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm sorry, now I'm just trying to go to the next slide. There you go. Okay, so in business, always expect the unexpected. Just like we spoke in the last lesson, we were talking about, preparing our families for emergencies. There is a plan also for our businesses. And if we start today, it will be an investment that will business investment, your livelihood. I'm sorry, hold on. An investment in planning today will not only help protect your business investment and your livelihood, but will also support your employees, customers, and stakeholders, the community, the local economy, and even the country. So let's get ready now. Excuse that, sorry. All right, so let's define hazard and vulnerability. We have a lot of different hazards across the United States. We have tornadoes, hurricanes, floods. All of these hazards make our businesses vulnerable. For example, if we have a business on the beach, that business on the beach is a whole lot more vulnerable to floods than the pizza shop 30 miles inland. So vulnerability is the inability to resist a hazard or to respond when a disaster has occurred. So that shop that's by the beach, you can board up and do as much as you can, but guarantee, you are in a vulnerable spot. So, that something is going to happen. In 2019, the US spent billions of dollars across the United States because of climate disasters. You see down in the, I'm not sure if you guys can see my pointer, but in the southeast, severe weather, tornadoes, earthquakes, rainstorms. So they spend a lot of money in disaster relief when it comes to businesses. And those areas most likely have a higher insurance premium. And later on, I'm going to talk about insurance and making sure that you have the right insurance. A lot of small businesses underinsure or just feel that they don't need insurance. So when choosing a storefront, consider the risk in your choice of location. And once again, if anyone has a question after a slide, just jump in, raise your hand. So like I said, so when choosing a storefront, consider the risk in your choice of location, the structure. It may be inexpensive to go ahead and get that nice, spot that's near near the beach or in a flood prone area. But in the long run, you may be spending a whole lot more money. So risk is the estimated impact that a hazard would have on people, the services, the facilities, and structures in business. Now, another thing that I wanted to bring up, many of us don't have a storefront. Maybe our business is from, working from home. The same precautions that you would take in creating a risk management map for your storefront, you would include that in your home emergency plans because your business is there. And let's say you have merchandise that you house in your home that you buy from a supplier. What if the supplier, their storefront gets shut down or flooded? Like, okay, where are you going to get your supplies from next? How are they going to mitigate the items that you get from them to supply your business? So when you're thinking of making your plan, you got to put all these different scenarios, keep all these scenarios in mind. Okay, so small businesses would have fewer risks? Not really. Just like a big business would have, big risks, a small business would also have big risks. Like I said before, some owners skip out on the insurance because they don't think they need it, or they get themselves underinsured. Some of the factors that reduce your business resiliency, you see number one there says informal organization. No matter how big or how small you are, you have to be organized. Small businesses are financially more vulnerable. They're probably using a lot of their own money to have their business running. Now, that's without a disaster. Now, if you have a disaster, and you have no insurance, how are you going to bounce back? I mean, even though you're paying, a monthly premium, God forbid if something was to happen, you would have, now you can have that claim and have that money to reimburse your losses. Maybe there's a credit constraint due to supply and demand. Maybe they're heavily leveraged. On the other side, you see the different types of risk. The property, if say there's an earthquake and you have the windows break, you have cracks in the walls, all those things need to be put into consideration if you're in an area that's prone to earthquakes or an area that's prone to hurricanes. Financial risk, operational and supply chain, safety, the safety of your workers, your safety. When you open up the stores, you need to bring back your employees. You want to make sure that they as well have a preparedness plan in their home because you want them to come back to work. They're part of your team. They're an asset to you. Strategic and data and technology. Data and technology is something very important. There is, I think it's called like cyber attacks. And that is a very big risk if you lose all your data and you didn't back it up. So backing it up and having extra files maybe stored at home or in another safe place is also a good idea. So those are things to add to your list of when you're mapping out your risk management plan, and maybe having a partner or a second person who also have copies. Before I move on, does anyone have a question? The next slide is going to be an example of a risk management assessment sheet. Anyone have any questions? Okay.
No, but I did want to weigh in. One of the things the small businesses should consider are people who do cyber attacks and actually hold their websites hostage. And some of them require that you pay them in untraceable monies like cryptocurrency. So another variable, even if you have a brick and mortar business, or a web-based business, is and this is huge, is individuals who take your website hostage, and have taken even public websites of city and state organizations and water companies hostage, to where they have to pay the money in order to get back their website. So that's another, when you mention data and technology, it's paying the money to make sure that your website is secure, and paying the money to make sure that your data is backed up.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So here is a sample risk management assessment that someone could use when they're making plans for their business. It looks kind of sophisticated, but it's just really simple. Just list the risk types. For example, on the left, you see the property, financial, the supply chain, the safety, as I mentioned, the safety of your employees and the safety of the structure, strategic. There on the side, it says there's a definition, it's planning, scoping, and resourcing requirements for establishing and sustaining and or growth of business. If something was to happen, what are your next steps? And of course, data and technology that Kashab just mentioned. What is resilience? You have the ability to adapt to changing conditions and withstand and rapidly recover from disruption due to emergencies. Well, right now we are in an emergency. Right now we see a lot of businesses, some are not adapting very well, and some are quickly adapting. You see now a lot of small businesses jumping online. You have teachers online tutoring. You have an increase of sales, transactions happening through social media. The post office is every day busy because people are, sending merchandise. So people are bouncing back and they're being very, very creative. So they're being resilient. Any comments on this, anyone? Okay. The risk management process. According to FEMA, 75% of small businesses without a plan, a continuity plan, fail within 3 years of a natural disaster. And we're basically kind of like in a natural disaster with COVID-19. So how do we avoid being part of that statistic? Well, include these factors in your plans. Number one, identify the hazards, as in the map earlier, depending on where you live, what are the natural, hazards that can affect your establishment? And if not really your establishment, just affect your business and how you do your transactions. Can you get to the post office to mail your merchandise? Can your supplier, get you what you need for you to, make your sales? So identify the hazards and be creative in trying to go around those hazards. Second tier says, estimate your risk exposures. Put a dollar sign to those exposures. If this was to happen, how much is this going to cost me? Like, how much money do I need to have in the reserves? Third one says, design a risk management program. Same thing when you're doing an emergency preparedness plan for your family, you are writing down all your risks and you're designing how you're going to, avoid those risks as much as possible, or how you're going to be able to bounce back, be resilient, and put your plan into effect to minimize your risk. So design a risk management program. And lastly, implement, monitor, and evaluate the program. I wouldn't wait for a disaster to happen to then say, I'm going to execute and see how this plan goes. Every so often, like how we practice drills, when we were in school, we practice fire drills, tornado drills. practice what you would do if there was a data breach and all of your, financials and all your files have been compromised. Now, what am I going to do? So play these things out. If you lose, electricity, what is your backup to get your computer going so that you can, do your work, send your files, make your contacts. So implement, monitor, and evaluate. And evaluate always means that, a plan never stays the same. You might have to tweak it, and that's okay.
Now, it seems like this type of risk management process requires professional input. Is this something that businesses, small businesses, now one thing for them to not know and be taught that this is something they need to do, but to actually do the process, is this something that small businesses are doing? And if not, do they outsource this type of thing?
They are suggesting. I would say that you have. I think it was in the hands of the insurance companies, and I think now it has to be more of, because the insurance companies don't cover all of these things. So yes, there is some outsourcing, and this was a pilot program that they're starting to implement. So I guess not too many businesses were doing that, but it's on the rise because of all the, we have terrorist things and we have data breaches. We have all these things coming up. So yeah, outsourcing is a good idea, and I believe that that's starting to come up.
Gotcha.
And that's a good question because it leads to this gentleman right here. And I'm going to play this video so that you guys can see, what he did. He's in the Philippines, and in the Philippines, they have frequent flooding. So let's listen to how he got his business back up.
We can't hear the audio, so I don't know if there is audio.
You can't hear the audio?
No.
Oh no, sorry. I'm going to try and go back. If I share the if I share the screen, will that show? You think that would help you hear it?
Usually we hear the YouTube videos, so I don't know if maybe something needs to be turned up, but if you
Okay.
can't share it, then we can always send that video in our Facebook group, but give it a shot and see if you could try it, sharing the screen for the video.
Okay, let me just go back. I'm sorry. It doesn't work?
You may have to share the actual, I don't think you're sharing the screen now, so see if you could hit share and share that actual video.
Okay. Can you see the screen now?
You didn't, right now I should see your screen. Are you sharing the screen? You may have to hit share first.
Okay. I am going to pause. My apologies. And I will do this again.
Right, there you go.
Okay. Now, I'm wondering if I press start video, if you'll be able to hear it.
There we go. Yes, we hear it now.
You can hear it?
Turn it up a little bit, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't hear, but let it play out. Maybe we can just watch the video.
Can you hear it?
No audio, but just video.
Okay, well, I'll just explain it real quick. So basically, there was a lot of flooding going on, and he went into the mall He set up his shop there, but let me show you this part here of the video. Remember when you said he outsourced? So this is what he did. There was a company that he then partnered with, and all of his data secured in a separate area. So if something was to happen with his other locations, this hub here was in charge of all of, the payroll, all their data. So this was something that this gentleman did. And I'll put the clip on in the chat so everyone can see it at another time. Okay. So the next slide. Well, I wanted to ask, does anybody has ever, made a plan, a risk management plan? Okay.
Yeah, prior to today, I mean, you hear about this type of thing in corporate, you hear about this type of things in school, in government. But on a small business side, usually the small business is busy trying to get money in, trying to manage. Some small businesses hardly have enough money to do really good advertising. So it's something that I have not heard of on a small business side, but only on corporate and other bigger companies.
Okay. All right. Well, yes, the small businesses can benefit from it, and I believe that when you're going out to look for loans, that they will ask what your what are your plans? What if they're going to ask those what ifs? Okay, so the next slide. How are you going to reduce loss of exposure? Well, avoidance, having your plan. Just like you plan with your emergency home plan, how are you going to plan for damages to your facility, damages to your supplies, damages from you getting financial damage, sorry. On the other side, risk financing, ways to pay for your losses. A lot of us in small businesses, yes, we use our own money, our personal funds, but you can use other people's monies too. And that's where the insurances come in. Government contracts. Even in your local community, there's a lot of grants and loans that you can apply for and count on. Maybe, when you're doing your plans, know all of this ahead of time so that in the event that something does happen, you know immediately where to go. For example, with everything that's happening now with COVID-19, you have SBA, you have all these different organizations. Every day you hear, some new companies out there offering money. Now, when you have and I think it was in a previous slide, no matter how small your organization is, you need to have your financial plans. You need to have all your information, all your details in order, because when you go to apply for these things, they're going to ask you. One of the things that they were asking with SBA is like, you need to have a business account. A lot of these places you can't even apply if you don't have a business account. So you want to make sure that no matter how small you are, that all those elements are in place, so that when these grants and these loans come out, you can apply for it. You might not get, $10,000, but you'll most likely get, you're going to get something, $500,000. You're going to get something that's going to help because your structure is there. Everything that they're asking for is there. When you're mapping out your risk map, in this sample here, I'm going to go back. It tells you, to list. Oh, jeepers. I'm sorry. Maybe I should use my mouse. 1 second, I'm sorry. It says to list your risk, your financial risk, your safety, the structure, your supply chain. All of these are risks, no matter how big, how small. Write it down. property, financial, safety, strategic. Information needed to create your risk. So all of these are part of your plan. No matter how big or how small, just include it, write something down. Where's the help? Well, I have 3 different organizations on here. Number 1 is FEMA, Disaster Assistance Program, Federal Emergency Management Agency, for home and private residents, not for business. Unfortunately, not for businesses, but it will help you for your home in the event of a disaster. FEMA
What if you have a
money,
home? What if you have a home business? Does that how does that work?
I would just apply for the home and not the
Okay.
business.
Okay.
But in the next slide, I'll show you something else. So president has to declare a disaster for these monies to be available. SBA. SBA has been everywhere giving out money. Also, when the president declares a disaster, this is another option to get funding. And when I said earlier that the one way to avoid your risk management is to make sure that your organization is properly organized and properly set up. SBA, the first thing they ask you on there, what is your bank account number, your business bank account number. So you have to just make sure that all of these elements are put in place so that when money is available, you can quickly apply. So this is another option. And we also have the EDA, Economic Development Administration. They are available also to nonprofits and small businesses. And yes, it requires a major disaster declaration from the president. And they are currently accepting applications. So this is another option. Government provides post-disaster assistance in forms of grants and loans. Keyword there, post. We want to make sure that before a disaster happens, that we have a resiliency plan ready to execute. You know what your hazards are, you know what your risk is, you know the dollar amount to it. You have your organization is structured properly. You have everything that you need. So when that the government comes out with these loans and grants, you're ready to execute. Because most definitely you know that there is going to be something if it's declared a national disaster. Local and state. The government gives the state the money. The state then, through their programs, makes the money available to the small businesses and the citizens. What we're going through right now. Locally, there's a lot of different organizations, a lot of nonprofits, businesses. Everyone right now is coming out with some type of help, some type of relief, but that structure has to be there for you to grab it. Due to limitations, can't rely solely on government assistance to assure business continuity and disaster recovery. Okay, well, we are seeing that because when that money came out, and please remind me, Kashab, from the government stimulus packet, I'm not sure if I'm correct on that, but the money ran out. Not a lot of businesses were able to benefit from that. So you want to also, look at different avenues. And when there is a natural disaster, earthquake, hurricane, flooding, tsunami, whatever you can name it, we have all these different environmental hazards that are intensifying. We have insurance. So there's different types of insurances, and this within itself is another lesson that is really important to make sure that you have the right insurance. There's general liability, professional liability, property insurance, and I put there a star next to it, what perils are covered. Not all perils are covered. Some may not include flooding, and you need to buy an extra policy to be added on a rider. Commercial and auto, business owner policy, workers' compensation, and the data breach insurance. That's pretty recent, the data breach insurance. So if there's data breach insurance, they're going to ask you, what are you doing to keep your data from being breached? I was interested in finding out, with all the looting that's going on right now, does insurance cover that? And it does. So there on the side and the yellow highlights, it says insurance industry groups say common business insurance policies will cover most of the damages caused by any looting or vandalism. Business insurance does cover rights and civil commotion. So that's a good thing to know. So these businesses will recover if they have business insurance. So even though they're losing out on merchandise, they can count on that money coming back. So insurance is very important.
Funny part about this aspect of it, again, just like with the first phase of the stimulus, it seems like the small guy gets the crumbs. Whether you're an individual getting 1,200 or a small business, they're giving small businesses $1,000, $5,000, but no real lump sums of money. And then now, when it comes to the hazard part of it, it seems like, yeah, more sophisticated companies, bigger companies, state-based organizations, of course, they're going to have these type of things in place because they know these type of things should be in place. So they will recover. But the small businesses, which is the core of who we're talking with now, I guess my question is, will they recover? Because do they have the insurance to cover looting? Who foresees that? So what have you seen in regards to that, as far as small businesses truly recovering by having insurance for these type of things?
Exactly. And not many small businesses have insurance. So this is a great lesson right now to know for the small businesses now to get this set up. Because yes, the bigger companies know all of this, and they will be collecting their claims, and a lot of small businesses don't, because when they buy their insurance policies, they're not reading the fine lines and they're not understanding all of these insurances. Like I said, I mean, within itself, this is another very detailed lesson, because by one little word might be missing and you'll miss out on coverage for flooding, or you'll miss out coverage if something was to fall on your roof that was due to an earthquake. If it was, you won't be covered. So you have to read the details very, very carefully. And a lot of small businesses just go ahead and sign off, or don't even get it, thinking that they're going to be covered, and it's not necessarily true. That's why they have so many different policies. And unfortunately, it becomes, it racks up, it gets expensive. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I have insurance, and I called the other day because my landlord wanted a copy of the insurance certificate. And I asked the guy, we went over the insurance policy. Everything seemed great. Like, it looks great. But I did ask him, was there anything else that I should get? So, like, being out of work all this time, because now it's 3 months that we've been out of work because of COVID. I don't know what insurance I would get to help cover, like, maybe rent. I understand the damages part. Like, if my store was damaged, if someone threw a rock through the window and it damaged stuff on the inside, I can get covered. But, like, outside of coverage, outside of damages, I mean, what could I get to insure myself so that if I'm put out of work due to some type of disaster, that I can get covered?
What perils does your insurance cover? Do you know what
I,
perils are listed on there?
I don't even know what perils are. So no, I don't know. I know
Okay, so
if you ask me specifics, like I
flooding.
know. No, I don't think flooding is on there.
What else do they have? Like hurricanes. They're gonna be like natural type hazards, but then you can add a specific hazard. Like, okay, looting should be on there. But let's
Okay.
say if there's a pandemic, like kind of like what we're on, we want to know
Hmm.
the if that's on there. If there's a state of emergency, is that on there? So you have to really
Okay.
look at it and look at the words. Check that out and see. And if hey, I wouldn't mind looking at it. I'll read it.
But
Oh, I have it. I'll
but
send
I
it to
was
you.
also wondering if Yane, if your question was more so, okay, the property is covered, but what about me as an individual? Am I able to get any income as
Yes.
far as the insurance being covered? And I think that's a different type of insurance. I think there is insurance. I know there's one if you get hospitalized, some kind of business insurance, and maybe one of our insurance people can weigh in on our group if they hear this. But there's some kind of business insurance that covers you as the owner if you become hospitalized and cannot work, then that kicks in as a form of income. But I don't know if that kicks in because of this type of public emergency. So, you know, that has to be looked at through one of the insurance people, maybe Jose or Georgia or one of those others that have participated with us before. They can probably weigh in and answer that question on our Facebook group.
Okay. Yeah, that is kind of what it is because I was told recently that I am gonna have to get workers' comp for my employees, even if they are contractors. So that's something I'm trying to figure out for myself. And going back to something that she said earlier when applying for the SBA loans, one of the issues that I ran into was more of income verification than it was I forgot what you were saying. Like, like a lot of people know that, okay, hey, if I want to be a legit business, I have to get my tax ID, I have to get a bank account. And that wasn't really the issue running into getting financing for this disaster. It was more so payroll. So a lot of people who are like self contractors or a lot of people who are just working for themselves, they don't have themselves on a payroll. So they don't have any type of payroll. And I'm starting to understand that that's necessary, but we don't know anything about it. So all you get is like ADP who's soliciting you, but it just seems like they're really trying to take your money just to process a check. But I just feel like as far as financing, having employees, having yourself be an employee, I think that that is a real big issue for a lot of small businesses. And that's why a lot of us did not get approved for a loan because we don't have any proof of payroll.
And if
But
I
did
could
you?
weigh in,
Mhm.
go ahead, Alex.
No, I was just gonna ask. But did you do your business tax?
I did my business tax, but I came into when I did my business tax, my dilemma was this. If I put down all of the income that I made, I would owe the IRS. If they adjusted it to make it look like I didn't make that much money, I could get something back, but then I didn't qualify for the PPP loan. And even if I qualified for the PPP loan, they were only going to give me like $2,000 based on payroll and what I made, with my taxes. So it wasn't worth it to put that I all the money that I made last year, which makes it harder for me to go out and get loans now. So it's like the only way I can get a loan from the bank is if I look like I'm making enough money. But in order for me to look like I'm making enough money, I have to pay taxes.
I think that and we can always, and this is an extensive thing. We're going to probably go into that in the workshop, right? But I will say this: they know that some businesses don't want to show a lot of income because that means they will have a tax liability. And they also know that if you do show the income, it does qualify you to grow your business. And I think that's a decision that has to be made by the business owner to determine, well, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to grow your business? If so, you definitely need to show the income. You definitely need to pay the taxes. But a lot of times, what we don't know about businesses is all the things we can write off. And that's where a tax professional, maybe Kadima, could weigh in on that when we do our workshop. But the idea is that you do want to show your business making money, and you also want to be able to write off a lot of the things that the business can write off. Those businesses who have employees right now, who are set up and showing all the money they're paying, were able to clean up when they offered all of these stimulus loans. Those who did not were not able to benefit. So, to me, I think that we have to get in the groove of setting up our businesses where we are showing that they're making a profit, because there's other ways. And as far as debt, there's other ways of offsetting your monies by the debt that your businesses have, and we're not maximizing on that. So we will go more into that in the workshop. But those are very good questions. But it's something that we have to discuss in details with the right professionals, on the phone, so they can weigh in.
Okay.
All right, Alex, go ahead.
Okay, so let's go to the last slide. Okay, so in your disaster resilience plan, prepare to respond to a disaster, recover, and continue business by putting into practice the following: identify and assess the risk and vulnerabilities, consider the risk management options, consider crisis communication, and that is in relations to your employees and also your suppliers. Build relationships with external agencies, increase awareness and resilience through employee training, act to build resilience, and test and exercise your plan.
Now, as far as Eco, your company, is that something that you will be offering, to small businesses within your workshops? And will you be taking that through Zoom and taking that show on the road? Because I think a lot of businesses need to understand this. Is this something that Eco will be offering?
In the future, yes.
Excellent.
Yes, then we'll take our time and do it, because there's a lot of information, and the wordings, just understanding and making the right steps. And to go back to what the lady was saying in regards to the payroll, I'm small business and I don't have payroll, and I applied. I didn't get what I wrote on there, but I did get something. So we just need to have everything organized, and we'll be able to move forward and expand and get the monies that we need, because it's out there. Any more questions? Any comments? Because this is the last slide.
I would just have to say, like, it's like I've been in a business for 5 years now, but I just think that there's such a lack of like step-by-step education for a lot of small business owners. It's a lot of information out there, but it's really hard to find the resources that will kind of walk you through everything. But
Yeah,
I appreciate everything that you put up here, because it's giving me more information that I can go back and say, okay, now I'm gonna call my insurance and say, hey, what perils do I have? So these are things that you don't know. Like, there's a lot of people in our communities that don't know this information. So thank you for sharing.
you're welcome. And I'm looking forward to actually, putting those steps down. And I'm just like you, like I need to know, just tell me step 1, step 2 in order. Usually when you go to these, you listen to things and everything is kind of like out of order, and you're not really understanding the flow. Like, you start here and you go to the next, and they'll have like the same words, the same meaning with a whole bunch of different words, but it's all means one thing. So just keep it simple. And it is simple. It just needs to be organized into a nice flow chart, and we can just follow it and just move forward. So I'm glad it was of help to you.
Absolutely. And that's the point, right, of the 30-day redemption. It's trying to bring us into information that will free us, because a lot of the other people who offer these services know we don't know. They know we're ignorant of a lot of things, be it the finance, be it the insurance. Today, you brought something very important to light: is the location of your business in certain regions can be a liability just going in. And so you get a cheaper place, but the insurance, the risk, you're constantly on a ticking time bomb, and that should factor into the decision making. So offering this information and any other information for the redemption of people is why we're doing this, and then being able to go deeper in by the workshops. But another thing I wanted to say, as far as Yane, is very important to have, um, whether you call it a mentor or a board of advisors or anybody, depending on how your company's set up, but advisors to give that knowledge that you don't know, um, or hire a business consultant and let them bring the knowledge they don't know. But there is so much out there. You're gonna miss things, but you're gonna learn. So hopefully, as you pass on this knowledge to your legacy, they won't have to start from ground zero. So that's the other benefit: is all this information becomes information that is in your bank now, spiritual or mental bank, to pass on. So at least the next gen, they don't have to start from scratch. All right, Alex, would you mind freeing up your screen so that we can get to? Okay. Alrighty. So, where did we leave off with that screen? Bear me 1 second, please. It's always a task with this thing. Oh, here it is. All right. So Alice is going to be hosting a workshop, giving more details on July 2nd. So if you're interested in that, you'll receive an email, and when you receive the email, make sure you register for it so that you can get more information. If she may do a few different parts, part one, part two, but she's going to do a workshop going more into details on that subject. And you guys can always, of course, share what we're doing here at 30 Day Redemption with other people who you think will find value in this information. If anyone else has any other questions, you can ask it at this time. And before that, Alex, I wanted to thank you for taking the time to put together a great presentation, valuable information, and we look forward to learning more about business resilience, and also I believe you're having one on family and home resilience. So very good information. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions to ask Alex before we close out?
Yeah, I wanted to ask one more question. This is Yanni again.
Yep.
So, okay, because Alex said that she would like to look at my policy.
Yeah.
So, should I wait until the workshop, or is there somewhere I can let you look at it now? Or
I think the workshop is going to be the best place so that she
Okay.
can go, other people can learn.
Yeah.
So once you sign up for that, then we'll create or she'll give the email and use that as one of the examples. But I guess if you want to send it to her early, you can. But I think the workshop is the best place so everyone can learn.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you all for your time. Again, thank you, Alex, for the presentation. We will do our part 7 tomorrow, and we have what is that? 3 more parts before we wrap up the mind segment, and then we're going to go into the body segment. So I hope everyone is learning, sharing, and most importantly, applying this information so you can make your life better and redeem yourself from under whatever you're under. Have a great day. Enjoy your Saturday. Get some sun and be well.
Bye-bye. Thank you.